Welcome to the Sypnotix. I am Alex, and I have a awesome product to talk about. It's a Chromebook, and you guys know how much I love Chromebooks, one of my favorite categories in tech. This is the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming Chromebook. It's a gaming Chromebook. So what exactly is a gaming Chromebook? What does it do differently than a regular Chromebook? We're going to find out together right now, so let's jump into it. And before we get started, I just want to make a quick disclaimer that yes, Lenovo did send us a review unit of the IdeaPad Gaming Chromebook, but everything I say here, they're not going to be watching or reading my review prior to the release of this video to you guys. Like many of you guys out there, I'm like, what is a gaming Chromebook? What does it do differently? I have had experience with streaming games, so I do have an idea of why these should exist, but in execution, in actual hardware, what is the difference? So the first distinguishing, I guess, gaming factor that Lenovo has thrown on here that you can see on the IdeaPad is the RGB keyboard, because this is just something that just didn't exist on ChromeOS until recently, and there was no need for it until now, because if you're going to be gaming, you do need those RGBs. So on this IdeaPad Gaming Chromebook, the RGB keyboard can cycle between colors, just like a standard gaming laptop keyboard or a mechanical gaming keyboard would do. I don't expect too much. It's still, for some reason, it's ChromeOS. Everything has to be like a light version. And there really wasn't a lot of customization here that you can do. It's very rudimentary, very basic, only a handful of colors that you can go. You can't even go really in depth in the hue and the pigment of the colors. And actually, customizing it is kind of hidden. It's kind of weird how deep in the menus you have to go. It's actually under personalization. Then you have to go to set your wallpaper and style in the menu. So it's not exactly the most effective way at highlighting this gaming selling point feature. In terms of the actual keyboard, it's actually a pretty good keyboard. If you've used any, I guess, Yoga or IdeaPad up to now from Lenovo, this is more of the same. It's a good keyboard. It's spacious. It has a numpad incorporated on the right side. Typing on it, it's rather shallow. Obviously, the key strikes, they don't travel too much. It's a laptop, but it's good. I occasionally strike the delete key when intending to hit the backspace key, so that's the only little part there where I do miss when typing on this. But, that's pretty common for me with keyboards with this type of layout. The keycaps are made of a plastic material, but it does feel nice on the fingertips. So I do like how the RGB goes through the keycaps out of the lettering. It's very beautiful, looks amazing. The colors are really sharp from the RGB coming out of the keycaps. And it really does feel like a Windows gaming laptop type of keyboard here. So at least the RGB keyboard is a very good solid for me. The trackpad is pretty decent. It's wide, it's large, it's basically on par with some of the top end ones I've used on the market recently. It's a good trackpad, a lot of good gestures. It'll handle ChromeOS perfectly fine. But, after the keyboard, other than the keyboard, there really isn't a distinguishing physical factor on here. The shell, the body, everything just looks like a regular Lenovo Chromebook. There's no RGBs anywhere else on the laptop. And it's just a very, I don't want to say bland, but it's a very simple, very clean, I would even say kind of business-like design. So on the outside, it really doesn't look much like a gaming laptop. It really just looks like a regular, I would say, business laptop. For this gaming aspect of the Chromebook, I mean, it is called the IdeaPad Gaming Chromebook. Gaming strictly is at the mercy of where streaming games are. AAA streaming titles are basically what you're going to be trying to play off of here. So services like Luna, Amazon Luna, and like GeForce Now from NVIDIA, those are like services that you're going to be using because Google no longer has their own. It's ironic that gaming Chromebooks launched after their streaming service ended. And that's the ironic thing with Stadia being gone. Gaming Chromebooks just don't really make a lot of sense right now in the market for me because I haven't actually had a great experience. I'll be straight up with you guys. And this part of the review really has nothing to do with Lenovo and this laptop in general. It's with gaming on Chrome OS, period. And that's the whole thing with Chromebooks. Like, Chrome OS only is a certain way based on what Google wants it to be. The OEMs who make the laptops have no influence on this with their hardware. So it's very minimal. We'll talk about that in a second with the actual specs. But in terms of the actual services, like GeForce Now was not that great for a lot of the games that I play. And this is all subject to basically what you want to play and the types of games that you want to stream, because every single game is different. The popular ones, like I've seen Fortnite work pretty well. I don't personally play Fortnite or any of these like FPS games. So the ones that are quite popular, I actually don't really play those games. I would assume they work a lot better than the ones that I play. I tried some MMOs that I played with Steam on my GeForce Now account. Didn't work too well here. I'll have some clips running in the background. It's like one of those things where like the cursor tracking issues and like the controller latency problems that I came across while playing on here isn't just subjectively bad. It just doesn't work well. It's just like a experience that isn't enjoyable. I mean, on one hand, it is kind of cool that I guess you could say a Chromebook is able to play these games where previously there was no possible way that it could have ever happened on the hardware. But because of these streaming services, we are able to at least get it running so I can actually get on the game. But the actual overall experience is bad because my mouse, a lot of times, it's completely off. It's like 3 columns or horizontally, vertically. It's just all over the place. It's nowhere near where I want the mouse to be, where I'm actually trying to track. It's just not there yet. The cloud gaming aspect of this is just not there yet. There's some kinks that need to be worked out. Not every game is ready. It's not ready because the developers also have to find a way to get it to that point with the streaming services. So, I don't want to sound like I'm really down on cloud gaming because I'm not. I do like the fundamental idea of being able to play quality games on any platform, regardless of where you are, at what time, whether you're using a phone or a computer or the hardware specs. It doesn't matter. I love that idea, and I was a big proponent of Google Stadia. I just want to have a smooth experience from start to finish that includes launching the game and being able to navigate menus flawlessly like it should. And I just couldn't do that without troubleshooting, without some games just being unplayable in a way. I don't think we're there yet. I do see the vision, but we're not there yet. And it makes gaming on here a headache and a chore, if anything. If you're going to buy this to play this, you need to be playing the popular games, the ones that have a lot of support, because if you want to play some no-name title that most people don't play, it's probably not going to work too well. The other aspect of this, and this is where I wanted to try this thing out, is mobile gaming. Mobile gaming is the world's largest gaming now. Everybody and their mothers and grandmothers and grandfathers play mobile games on their phones, on their tablets, iPads, whatever, right? When the Google Play Store became a thing on Chrome OS, I was super excited, but not much has improved. It's gotten better, but it kind of plateaued and it hasn't improved since. And we have more of the same here. I am somewhat disappointed because a gaming Chromebook ideally could be the perfect machine to play mobile games on here. This could be the perfect tablet replacement, and it's just not there. A lot of the games that I play, I guess you could say the AAA mobile games, don't play on here. It's really frustrating because years and years later, we're talking about like at least half a decade now, it still hasn't gotten to the point where we can play it. And the hardware is not bad on here. We'll talk about the specs in the next segment, but just my experience gaming on this, mobile gaming wise, I've been really enamored with a game called Honkai Star Rail. I mean, some of you guys might have played this. It's from the same people who make Genshin Impact. This gacha RPG, you can spend like hours on for one session because it's an RPG and you got to do missions and they're long-term based battles. So I've spent many hours on my phone playing this, and it would be good to be plugged in onto a laptop playing this. Yes, there is a PC version of it, but I'm so invested in the mobile version. It would have been nice just to transfer and play it onto my Chromebook when I flip my Chromebook open and when I'm in my office. Unfortunately, the game is unplayable on the IdeaPad Gaming Chromebook. It downloads and even updates and it even opens, but you get the whole, purple screen of death preventing us from doing anything on the game. So it's unplayable. Like the thing is, it's not like this laptop is significantly underpowered or anything. The game's minimum PC specs, at least for Honkai, is basically around the ballpark of this. Of course, that's for Windows, but still, alas, the IdeaPad houses an Intel Core i3 12th gen processor, has 8 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. So it's not like the old days where we're running really underpowered hardware on Chrome OS. We actually have a decent processor. We have, of course, just built-in graphics, but still, it should be able to handle a lot of these games. I do have to say, though, and I say this in a lot of my reviews, Android games don't perform well on Intel chips. It's still like this all these years later. ARM chips, ARM processors have traditionally played better with Android games, played nicer with Android than Intel chips. And I've seen the same thing on this laptop, but that's the whole thing. Like, I don't really see them pushing this. It's like, oh, cool, here's the Play Store. It somewhat works, somewhat doesn't, but the experience isn't that great. So instead of let's work to make it better, it's just like, oh, it's just here. We'll just live with it. That's kind of what ChromeOS has become, and I'm kind of sad about that because gaming Chromebooks should be this exciting step forward, and it's just not the case here. But where this vision of ChromeOS Android gaming actually came to fruition, and I saw it, is with this game called Hegan Ithril, I think it's called. I had an amazing time, an amazing experience with this game here because it's actually pretty good. The graphics are pretty darn good on this game, and it is a pretty high quality Android game, and it just ran really well. It played perfectly fine, and this is what ChromeOS gaming should be like. This is what ChromeOS is missing because there's a lot of Android games with this quality, these, I guess you can say, AAA mobile games that we can't play on here like Honkai. We should be able to play all of these games like Hegan on here, and I don't understand why there isn't a hardware aspect or even a software aspect from Google that will allow you to key map your keys on your keyboard. Like, that's the whole point about playing these games. The whole point of using emulators. We love to customize on Android. We love to be able to use a controller and map the keys, right? Like, I don't know if Google lets them do it because they are pretty tight with Chrome OS and they're just licensing Chrome OS. And stuff like this is what I want to see from a gaming Chromebook. These are gaming features that are beneficial and useful. RGB lights are cool. Don't get me wrong. I love that stuff too. It looks cool. But these are beneficial gaming uses that we are accustomed to on anything that remotely is gaming related on our laptops and our PCs that we want to see over on our gaming Chromebooks. See, when everything is working well and you're playing a high quality game like Hegan, it looks terrific because of this 16-inch 2560 by 1600p IPS display. It's a gorgeous, very sharp, well-saturated viewing experience, especially for a Chromebook. We've come a long way from those really bad Chromebook displays. These are good Chromebook displays now, and it makes this game look so good. The 16 by 10 aspect ratio gives the IdeaPad a traditional laptop form factor, and that 120 hertz refresh rate makes scrolling and reading through text such an enjoyable experience. It actually is a very good viewing experience. I had a really hard time, I guess, nitpicking, trying to find a negative, but if I had to say anything, it wouldn't be, it's not as bright as competitors out there. It's 350 nits of brightness, so it's not bad at all, but I wish it got a little brighter. Otherwise, this is a terrific display. It was gorgeous to look at, and I really enjoyed it. Another thing I was pleasantly happy about was the battery life. I got about 4 to 5, probably about 5 hours of battery life. I ran Hegan for 5 hours consecutively without turning it on, without keeping it plugged in before the battery reached 0. So 5 hours was the benchmark for that particular game, and that is a rather battery draining game. So that's a good chunk of screen on time to have for a gaming session. Like I keep saying, these gacha RPGs, gacha games where you got to do missions, like that's the whole point of having it on a laptop. You keep it plugged in, or longer battery life than your phone, right? Like hopefully that's the case. So your mileage, of course, will vary depending on the type of game, and also if you do cloud gaming, obviously that's a different story. But I do find the battery life in general to be good, and it's very proficient for this IdeaPad. Another well thought out thing from a hardware standpoint is the amount of ports and how they're divvied up on this laptop. The left and the right sides of the frame house one USB-C and one USB-A port each. So they're on both sides of the laptop equally. That means you'll be able to use a mouse or plug in the charger from either side without having a cable wrapping around to your outlet, and it's just smart. There's also a micro SD card slot and a 3.5mm headphone jack to round out the necessities for a proper gaming machine. It's ironic because the IdeaPad Gaming Chromebook is actually a very well-built, decent performing, I would even say gaming laptop. Like it has certain things in here that can make it a good gaming, not just Chromebook, but gaming laptop. It's just sadly the premise of the platform, which is gaming, of course, and the end product does suffer from this whole fragmented ChromeOS user experience.
Well, look at that. You made it to the end of the video. Be sure to subscribe, follow us at all our social media links, and also definitely check out our website, Sypnotix.com. You won't regret it.